Hello everyone and welcome to the English edition, international edition of the Token City show. I am told there's very many viewers at the moment watching us. Please don't forget to check out all our networks at Token City, social networks. And today we have a very special guest. His name is Anthony Woolley. He is the head of business development at Ownera, which is the company behind the FinP2P protocol, and he's with us here today to tell us all about it and more. Hi, Anthony. Welcome to have you here today. We're very happy to have you here today.
Yes, thank you. Hi, it's a pleasure to be on the show. Thank you for having me.
Good to see you. So I know that you have a very bright career in the financial industry, so it would be great if you could tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Sure, okay. So I would say throughout my career, I've been involved in the transformation of the financial markets in one form or another. And that's been quite a journey over the last 20 to 30 years, right? So back in the 90s, I was on the trade floors in London, busy giving traders computers, right? Back at a time when they were still shouting down telephones and writing out paper tickets. So the 90s saw traders start to use computers directly. And then in the 2000s, I was working for firms like Citi, actually starting to replace the traders, right? And that's when you got the real electronification of the markets. I was focused at the time in the foreign exchange markets, and we were doing really interesting things like being able to automate pricing in the most liquid markets on the planet, Euro-dollar spot, and then through forwards and swaps. And then we saw this technology migrate to more complex products. So I spent the latter years working for SocGen out of London. I was their chief information officer and got involved in a lot of the electronic transformation going on in the fixed income markets and then in the structured products markets. And while this was going on, there was a lot of interesting things going on externally in terms of potential transformation of the markets. And one of those that grabbed our attention was the world of blockchain, what was going on with Bitcoin, and what that might say and how that might inform the transformation of the industry. And I think it was a few years ago now, probably 6 or 7 years ago now, I got involved in that space. For many will know that SocGen is a big derivatives house. We were interested in this concept of programmable money, and we were thinking, how is this amazing technology that enables peer-to-peer financial transactions, how could this really inform and transform the future of financial services? Ultimately, I've done what we see quite a number of my colleagues and compatriots do nowadays, is I moved from the last large institution to the fintech to really get involved in driving that transformation. So now 2.5 years ago, I joined Ownera to focus on the next phase of transforming the financial markets.
Right. I remember, now that you mentioned, there was a time when we used to think about the trading floor. It was full of people, and now there's just no such a thing. So it is interesting, the evolution, the length of the evolution. So Ownera is a super interesting company, and I would like you to also tell us a little bit exactly what Ownera is doing, why, and when you started, and so on.
Yep, so to continue the story, so when I was back at SocGen, I had the privilege of interacting with hundreds of fintechs and looking at the trends and seeing what was going on. And I got talking to the new founder of Ownera, Ami Ben David, and we really had a meeting of minds. We were both looking at this technology and realized it had this tremendous potential to transform really the life cycle of securities transactions and also give access to assets that you haven't been able to distribute efficiently, so alternative assets, private markets, etc. And so with Ownera, what we realized is the technology could do this, but there were a couple of major issues, right? Some companies had already started adapting that technology to the regulated securities market. Many of your viewers will know the term security tokens, so tokenizing regulated securities. And many organizations like Token City got involved really at the forefront of what was going on in that transformation of saying we can tokenize these products. One thing, though, that the industry lacked, well, it lacked a couple of things. One was institutional engagement. So only 2 or 3 years ago, you know, the level of regulatory uncertainty and regulatory concern was keeping institutions out of that whole world, irrespective of whether it was regulated securities or not. And also, because there was a lack of institutional engagement, there's also a lack of global distribution, right? So the ability to, when you've tokenized, you know, either a conventional security or you can tokenize nowadays commercial real estate or any other real world asset, you want to be able to distribute it to hundreds of thousands of investors. And that distribution capability just wasn't there. So Ownera was born around the vision of bringing the financial industry together to enable institutional engagement in this space and to unlock global distribution. Ultimately, this means that you can have investors all over the world that can access directly tokenized assets all over the world, be able to, with one click, invest in them, go on the cap table or the registry of that asset, be able to buy and sell it, and ultimately be able to borrow against it, right, as well. Take assets in your portfolio and collateralize them to secure a loan, this sort of thing. So Ownera is really about the rails that are unlocking distribution for the world of tokenized regulated securities.
Right, understood. Just one little clarification for our audience. We generally call SocGen Societe Generale around here. Okay. So just to clarify that, when Anthony talks about his experience, he's talking about Societe Generale. Yep, Ownera's vision to focus on the big players of the industry. We're talking about many trillions of assets under management and potentially even many more. Of course, many of the big names in the industry involved. We definitely see that very interesting. The Fin P2P network allows that type of player to communicate with virtually any other type of player, right? You not only, the Fin P2P protocol is not only blockchain agnostic, but it also accepts let's say traditional banking platform technologies, right, like CDS and so on. So in terms of that side of the industry connecting to more like the upcoming world of startups such as Token City, how do you see that playing out?
Yes, so obviously if you set out with a vision of bringing the industry together, you have to take a very open approach and bring everybody on board, right? So what we did starting 2.5 years ago is we created a whole forum under fantastic not-for-profit that's promoting this world of digital finance called GDF. They've merged recently with Global Blockchain Business Council and really drive institutional engagement and support and work with central banks, regulators, etc., to provide greater regulatory clarity in this space. And what we did was we brought those networks together, the ones I brought from the institutional world, founder of Ownera brought from the world of crypto and VCs, etc. And that group rapidly grew to over 80 major institutions, the largest tier one buy and sell side institutions, the largest exchanges, along with all of the fintechs in this space, tokenizers, digital exchanges we've seen coming online. And what we wanted was a method, an approach that we can unlock financial distribution between all of them. And that's a little bit of a challenge, right? Because different institutions have different appetite for different levels of innovation. So, for example, you have some large financial institutions today that are happy to start engaging in the world of public blockchains, you know, fully decentralized blockchains, whilst other institutions only want to engage in more walled off private blockchain environments. And what we did to solve this problem was we created this peer-to-peer protocol, which we donate as open source, called Fin P2P, as you referred to. And what that does is it enables any blockchain environment, any tokenization environment that has assets that it's tokenizing and want to distribute. So you might have commercial real estate or chains of hotels or private equity funds or whatever it might be that you want to tokenize and distribute. And what those Fin P2P rails enable you to do is create peer-to-peer bilateral distribution connections to people who have pools of assets. So institutions that are distributors, whether that's large institutional wealth managers, whether it's digital exchanges, etc. And we do this in a way that enables institutions to participate and engage with other parties that they're happy from a regulatory point of view to engage with. And it's really this paradigm of being able to unlock peer-to-peer distribution whereby institutions can get engaged and start digitally distributing assets to large pools of suitable investors that really unlocks this distribution problem. I don't think it could have easily been done either by just hoping that everybody's going to get behind one blockchain, because I don't think that's going to happen, and trying to put everybody on the same blockchain. I don't think it's going to happen just by only having public blockchains, because many don't provide the regulatory clarity that large institutions need, and nor do I think it works by just having these closed proprietary environments that don't really unleash the potential to reach investors wherever they are in the world. So we think this approach that we have of bringing the industry together with these peer-to-peer distribution rails is really the key to unlocking distribution in this space and really enabling investors wherever they are in the world to access high-quality assets distributed by the world's leading institutions.
Absolutely. It's definitely a great vision that we're totally in line with. Talking about that, you are in a privileged position, given your history and current position, to assess the global state of the tokenization industry in terms of technology, regulation, preparedness, so to speak. What's your view on the current state of the industry, and if you want, maybe how do you see it evolving in the next few years, for example?
Yeah, it's been well, it's quite a ride, this industry, right? Going all the way back from Bitcoin unleashing the potential of what this decentralized peer-to-peer finance could be, all the way through to as many of your viewers know, the crypto winter that we've been experiencing throughout 2022, and throughout everything that's been going on in crypto the last few years, it's been quite an exciting environment and focused on the world of virtual assets. But we feel that the biggest prize is the tokenization of real world assets. I think, at peak, the world of virtual assets, crypto, the total market capitalization was maybe 2 trillion. That's dropped to 1 trillion. But this is actually quite small and actually quite niche in retail compared to the ability to unlock the world's real world assets, which is tens of trillions of dollars. And I think, when the crypto winter really took hold last year, and we've had everything that's going on with FTX and everything else, what it's done is it's focused people's minds, and especially large institutions' minds, on what's really important about what's going on here with this new innovative technology. And I think what we've seen in the last 6 months is a lot more inbound interest from institutions that are realizing that this is about a much bigger prize. This is about tokenizing real world assets and being able to transform the life cycle of financial securities transactions, right? I mean, you've got the traditional capital markets that I've been involved so many years in this transformation. It kind of works, it kind of goes really fast, but it's held together with sticking plaster, right? It's, we have a complex financial infrastructure. Securities transactions take days to settle. There's lots of risk of counterparty and default risk, etc. And with these new technologies, we have the ability to simplify all of that, to bring investors and ultimate beneficial owners of assets much closer to the assets, to be able to click and immediately become a shareholder in a company and settle that transaction in maybe 3 seconds, right? And in many ways, we see that, I mean, people have known for a while the potential of that technology. Now what we see happening, and especially as everybody's now turning and focusing on what's really important, is this is now starting to happen. And interestingly, where it's happening is not the extremely liquid markets that I was first involved in the transformation of, but actually the most illiquid markets, which have the ability potentially to leapfrog technology-wise what's happening in the public capital markets. So the ability to take very illiquid assets, commercial real estate, shares in private companies, these sorts of things, and be able to distribute them, have investors access them wherever they are in the world, get the right information to give them confidence to invest in that asset and click to invest. So where we are right now, in summary, is although we see all this turmoil that's happened in the crypto environment, is actually driven focus and attention, and then now driving people towards the whole agenda of tokenizing real world assets. And we think that's the big transformation that is now happening as part of the evolution of that technology. If it's not too trite a metaphor, I would say that what's been going on in crypto is really about what happened with Napster when they started transforming streaming of digital music, and ultimately what we're doing with the tokenization of real world assets will lead to something a bit more akin to Spotify, right?
Yeah, completely agreed. One big aspect, basically the big aspect maybe in how fast and how deep the tokenization of real world assets go is regulation, right? So as you know, we in the European Union, we now have the pilot regime, which is a set of exemptions that enables companies such as ours, which we are doing, to launch an exchange and trade security tokens. There's the US as a big jurisdiction with their maybe set of difficulties maybe. And then there's the UK, which is a big financial center in Europe. How do you see the regulatory landscape in these areas? There's also Switzerland, which is one of the most advanced countries, and I'll take the liberty to say that Token City is also launching in that jurisdiction. It is a much more advanced regulatory landscape, and just one simple indicator is that under Swiss regulation, you can now launch a securities exchange where it's also possible to tokenize securities, where it's also possible to trade cryptocurrencies at the same time, right? So it's a well-developed, at least from my point of view, right, regulatory situation there. How do you see the UK that you know well, and compare maybe to other jurisdictions like Europe or Switzerland or the US?
Yeah, so I think what everybody's been looking for over the last few years, wherever you are in the world, is regulatory clarity, right? That's what the institutions need to really engage. They don't like regulatory uncertainty where they're effectively taking on an unknown risk for the future. So as regulation has improved in various jurisdictions, that's enabled, first of all, small companies, startups to get engaged. And as we get true regulatory clarity, that's what enables then the big institutions to move in as well. And I think that regulatory clarity has started to emerge in the last few years. First of all, in jurisdictions such as Switzerland, then in the EU, and in the UK. In the UK, it's more important probably than many other countries because we are a service-based economy, and financial services represents over 8% of our GDP. So it's crucial that we get this right. And I think that the UK government, central bank regulators have understand that, I think, and there's been some caution in terms of how that's evolved, but that's accelerated in the last year. We had the crypto asset regime, and now we've got further statements over the last just over the last month in terms of support from Rishi Sunak, promoting the UK as a centre for crypto assets, and ultimately that led to, I saw just a poll this week saying that London was the most favourable crypto hub city in the world right now. And I think a lot of that is about having regulatory clarity first and foremost. It's about having the right tax regimes, the right environment for companies to flourish in that environment. So I think we're in a relatively strong position here. I think it's proving most difficult for the US, right? I mean, and not least because they have such a complex regulatory structure, both at a national and at a state-based level. So we see a lot of developments and noise in the press around regulation in the US, and it is starting to make progress, but I think the regulatory complexity they got over there is starting to somewhat hold them back. And I think that really this whole space of applying this technology to regulated securities, being able to tokenize and tokenize real world assets, I think both for the UK and Europe are in a relatively strong position to drive that from this part of the world outwards. So overall, I'm optimistic both in terms of where the UK's position right now and the rest of Europe.
Thank you very much, Anthony. I think, I don't know if there's anything you would like to add, but we've covered a lot already. In terms of Ownera or the benefits of tokenization, if you could oblige. Yep. Yeah.
So, yeah, what I would add is we're right at this tipping point, this exciting part in the journey. So for Ownera as a company, we're now just over 3 years old. Last September, we announced our Series A from a number of strategic investors, including JP Morgan and other institutions. And I think that showed the support we had across the industry to open up these rails. Where we're at the moment is working both with the larger, maybe sometimes slower moving institutions and the dynamic companies like Token City, other people tokenizing assets. And we're right now at the first half of 2023, bringing this all to production. What does that mean? It means that by unlocking that distribution, you get an environment where investors, wherever they are in the world, will start to get access to applications provided by their wealth managers, their brokers, or whoever, not in a world where you need to understand too much complexity as you have had to do as an investor in the world of crypto with getting these complex wallets running, etc. I think we're starting to get to a point where investors will get access through their computers, apps on their phone, and through those, they will start to be able to see assets all over the world. The investors don't need to know what technology underpins it, whether there's a particular blockchain tokenizing that technology. They don't really care, right? What they want to see is high quality assets. It might be a bit of SpaceX in the US or a bit of commercial real estate in Singapore, assets coming out of the Middle East. They want to be able to see them, see the right up-to-date valuation and detailed information on those assets, click, and when they click, to buy a piece of those assets and for that transaction to settle. And that's the brave new world we're entering. It's been great working with Token City on the last couple of years on that journey, and that's all going to production in the coming months. So we're really, I think 2023 is this breakout year, the world moving from its focus historically on virtual assets to its focus on real world assets, and really unlocking those trillions of dollars that investors are somewhat desperate to get access to and diversify their portfolios, right?
Agreed, completely agreed. Thank you so much, Anthony Woolley, Head of Business Development at Ownera. It's been a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you, Javier. It's been great.
Thank you. Bye. That's been all from Token City today. I hope you really enjoyed the show. Please don't forget to check out our website, tokencity.com, tokencity-.com, and also our social networks. Thank you so much. Bye.